All
right, so we're back. So Robbie, next, I'd like to talk about something that's one of my favorite topics, and that's the stones that you push the infrared frequencies through. So we use jade, which has been used in traditional Chinese medicine for who knows how many years, a lot,
At least
at
2000.
least 2,000. Yeah, that's a few. And then my absolute favorite is tourmaline. And before we talk, I'll let you touch on the benefits of these stones. But I've got a story that I just love to tell the practitioners about the tourmaline. So the way I understand it, you're in China. You're one of very few people allowed to go to the place where they actually mine this tourmaline. What do you say it was a 15-hour bus ride into mainland China?
17 hours.
17 hours, wow. And the only way you can get there is by bus, right?
Correct.
So you got about, an hour away from the mountain where they mine this tourmaline, and you took a sip of some Chinese rice wine. Of course, it tasted like pure rubbing alcohol. It was absolutely, harsh. And then you got a little bit closer to the mountain, and they had you sip the rice wine again. It tasted super smooth, like some of the smoothest booze you've ever tasted in your life. So you're like, well, what the heck's going on here? And then they expand on the people that live in this village. So they basically live in a mountain of tourmaline, correct? And the people there live an average of like over 100 years old. And they don't take very good care of themselves, from what I understand. They love to drink their booze. They are almost all cigarette smokers. Fried food is on the menu just about every single night. And their water is extremely polluted because they're in a factory town. But since they live in so many negative ions, these people just live extremely long lives. And you harness those stones and are pushing infrared frequencies to the pad.
Yeah,
Correct?
well, we've always been looking as a company. One of our foundational elements is to combine earth elements in our products. So having the energetics of stones as well as bringing the frequencies of sun energy seems to be a winning combination that delivers an amazing health benefit to the patient. So when I was invited on this tour, I jumped at it because there's only 5 places on Earth that people live the longest. 3 of them are in China. I was invited to go to 2 of them.
Awesome.
So I probably still hold the trophy for the only white male that's ever been to
Right.
this area. So I had an interpreter. We had 2 other fluids, Qingtao beer and also like a sort of like a 7-Up. And so we were closing the bottles and opening the bottles and testing them as we moved towards the epicenter of the village.
Right.
And sure enough, like when we got to the center, I couldn't believe like where 5 miles out, I could hardly even touch the Chinese white wine or like a rubbing alcohol, like you
Right.
said, to my lip without it burning. When I got to the epicenter, it was just smooth as could be. It was
That's
amazing.
crazy.
So knowing me, I'm a little scientist at heart, so I bring all of my devices with me: Gauss meters, ionizing readers, for I can measure the amount of
ions.
negative ions in the air. I brought all these different testing devices, litmus paper, just everything I could think of to try to figure out why it is that people live to these great ages. And as you said and pointed out, the statistics: 39% of the people smoke something.
Wow.
While we were driving towards this to village, it's an industrial town, and you go over bridges, and it's on tributaries because in the old days, now they've got cars and trucks, but in the old days, the only way they got manufacturing goods out to the country was basically through waterways. So you see, just like on the Industrial Revolution in the U.S., the smokestacks,
Right.
you know there's air pollution.
Right.
You know that there's soil pollution because all that soot is settling
Tons
down.
of water pollution.
Yeah, we saw a fish swimming upside down. Their heads were bobbing, so we know that there's obviously water pollution, yet people are living to these ages. It's incredible. So what I noticed, and this was just so paramount, that when I turned on my meter, my digital meter to count the negative ions, it virtually went off the scale. So to give the audience a feel for that, like negative ions predominantly happen when in friction environments, when water is somehow there's friction involved. So it could be when water's moving over land, like a waterfall, or even like raindrops through the atmosphere. The friction of the raindrop through the cloud will free up an electron. The bodies are positively charged.
Sure.
Mostly because of our environment, and air handlers like air conditioning and heaters, they put out cations. Fluorescent lights,
Yeah.
they put out cations.
Our rubber-soled shoes.
Yeah, they charge us positively.
Right.
So inside the body, all of our cells are like little batteries. They got a positive and a negative charge. If you're more positively charged, the whole electrical system, which is what your neurological system is based on, is compromised somehow. So the best thing you could do for us is introduce negative ions, balance out that battery so that we're actually got a homeostatic or equilibrium in
Sure.
terms of the charge. And so when our bodies are put into negative ion environments, then it creates that sort of neutral,
Sure.
and then we get better communication, cellular communication. We get a sense of well-being, a sense of euphoria, that type of stuff.
Yeah.
You know. So back to China. So anyway, I turned on this meter, and it read 20,000 times greater than natural air. So a waterfall, a very vibrant
Wow.
waterfall, might be 1,200 times. If you go to the ocean front where a wave hits the sand and that friction is created, it might be 700 times greater. But 20,000 times greater. So hence, we bring all of our tourmaline that we use in all of our products, the portable saunas. Now we put it into the Perfect Pad. It's one of my favorite stones because
Absolutely, I
naturally,
love it,
without
yeah.
turning anything on, it's generating a negative ion, and it helps the body heal in amazing ways.
Yes. And another thing I love to talk to my doctors about, being an energy guy myself, is cellular resonance. And when a cell's in harmony, the wave stream's really coherent, so it's really tight. And when your cell's not in harmony or really positively charged, it's got a really incoherent wave stream, demanding more energy, more food, cell communication drops. So, having these negative ions gets our cells closer back to that 0 point, which is just a big passion of mine, and I know yours as well. So,
Yeah.
thanks so much.
Oftentimes, I was going to say one more thing.
Yeah.
Oftentimes, when I'm teaching, I use this analogy and I ask the audience, how many in the audience sing in the shower? And so they reluctantly raise their hands and they
Right.
go, I always love the guys that go, oh, I do. And I
Right.
go, why do you do that? And they all give me some answer because I sound better or, whatnot. And the truth is, you basically sing in the shower because you're happy.
Right.
And that happiness is occurring because when the water is coming through that shower head, it's freeing up electrons. So now you're in a closed shower stall, and your body's just absorbing these negative ions, making you feel happy and fulfilled, and that gives you that sense of well-being.
Right.
And then you just start singing because that's what people do when they feel good.
Absolutely.
So that's what we do with our technology, and we just try to bring ourselves back to the way nature intended us to be.
Absolutely.